My name is Keith Lippincott. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's September 6, 2020. It was a tough, tough couple of days after the diagnosis, and On With Life was recommended to me by my daughter because one of her friends is a residential assistant here in Ankeny, Allie. Hello, Allie. And so the neurologist at Mercy and I discussed options of places to go and people to see and what he would recommend. And he also recommended On With Life to get involved with what's called the Big and Loud program. Now, I have not done the Loud program, but I did do the Big program. And the first couple days we did the workouts with the exercises. I was exhausted because my muscles were being used that had atrophied a little bit. They were very patient with me to make sure the technique was good. I worked primarily with Nora, and I worked with Sue and one other lady whose name has escaped me, but that's a cognitive problem on my part. So, but went through the 6 weeks of exercises and stretching, and have continued to do those exercises and become more active again. I also was a member of the cognitive fitness group that met on Wednesdays, and Chandler did a great job and Sue did a great job giving us activities over Zoom that we could work on at home to help keep our brains sharp. Some of them were very interesting to do and weren't too difficult for me to accomplish, and there was others that were very challenging because that's the whole point, is to keep your brain active and keep yourself focused. But I would highly recommend On With Life because it has done a lot of good for me. I feel better about myself. I did have to learn how to walk a little bit because I had a foot drop problem. I had to worry about my posture because I tended to stoop, and I don't mumble very much anymore. But that's part of the Loud program, was to make sure you express yourself, and they decided I didn't need that yet, but I will do that as needed in the future. And if you have any questions or comments, please refer them to On With Life, and I'm sure they'll come up with a good plan for you. Thank you.
My name is Amy, and my dad has been diagnosed with Parkinson's. He's had it for 4 years, and we lived in a different part of the state, and we moved to Ankeny. He moved to Ankeny about 2 years ago, and I had heard about On With Life and the Big and Loud program, and was determined that he was going to participate, even though he didn't know that he wanted to. We had already seen there were so many different things that were already happening in his life that he was starting to fold in on himself, and his voice was much softer, and just cognitive skills seemed to be lacking, and this from a person who was an electrical engineer and eventually a pastor. So, somebody who has a lot of education, and to see them start to fade was really difficult. And so I convinced him to come to On With Life. His neurologist in Des Moines had recommended it, and couldn't believe the difference that took place over the 6 weeks that he had been in the Big and Loud program. He would walk around the house, or when I would pick him up to go get groceries, and he would be walking with his hands big, and he would be walking with big steps, and he would ask me every day, am I using my big voice? And then when the pandemic hit, and he didn't get to come back for his checkup, or his tune-up as we called it, it took some time again to convince him of his need to come back to the Big and Loud program. And as soon as we did, again, it didn't take but one time being back with the therapist that he had come to know. They knew him by name, and it just, the difference in just his whole personality, he just came alive. And I see that with the Big and Loud program, the On With Life people, the staffing, they're fabulous. And it gives him something to look forward to when he comes to his therapies. And when he walks out, he usually has something funny that he wants to share with me that has taken place with any one of his therapists. The biggest change in him that I see is mental. Because before, thinking that Parkinson's is the end all, and it's not. It really is just a journey. And watching him go through this as his primary caretaker has been an up and down roller coaster, but really appreciate what the Big and Loud has done for my dad, and the quality of life that he will now have is just, it's given him a new lease on life, and I'm very appreciative for it. And I'm also known as his daughter when I walk in, so it also makes me feel very welcomed into the environment as I watch him do his therapies. So I can't recommend Big and Loud enough. It has really been life-changing for our family.
My Parkinson's disease diagnosis came in May of 2010. The neurologist I saw put me on Mirapex and told me to exercise, exercise, exercise. That was 10 and a half years ago. It was 5.5 years ago that I learned of the LSVT Big and Loud programs for Parkinson's. I was working with a physical therapist in Ames, Iowa, where I live, that knew about and highly recommended the program. She had experience with the program of exercises, but was not certified to teach them. She did some research and found out that On With Life in Ankeny, Iowa did have certified therapists. I began learning to be big there in January of 2016. I drove from Ames to Ankeny 4 days a week for a 1-hour session for 4 weeks. The physical and occupational therapists that worked with me were caring, knowledgeable, and highly motivating. The 8 daily exercises that I continue to do fit the movements I use in daily activities, improve my balance and range of motion, and give me more confidence. Walking big with large steps and arm swings improves my endurance. That was 5.5 years ago. Before COVID and the restrictions it has brought, boxing for Parkinson's boosted my physical and emotional strength. Cognitive exercises available online exercise my brain. LSVT Big monthly check-in sessions, now online, keep me accountable in doing the exercises, and Parkinson's Support Group online monthly meetings offer educational presentations by the On With Life staff and guest presenters with time for questions, discussions, and conversation. On With Life's commitment to the Parkinson's community is ongoing. If one of us needs to review or has problems, we can go back for a tune-up to help maintain as high-level functioning as our disease will permit. I feel the caring support from all the people at On With Life and appreciate both the staff and the help they give immensely. They have helped me so much, and I hope will continue to be there for the Parkinson's community.
I'm Linda Sesker, moved from Des Moines to Ankeny about 4 years ago and started coming to the Big and Loud program On With Life. And then I went into the boxing, loved that. It really helped me. So of course, since the pandemic started, why I've slipped a lot. So I've been coming for physical therapy. And I enjoy everybody here. They're all so nice. I used to go to Iowa Clinic for physical therapy, not anymore since I came here. I like it much better. And everybody's a lot of help and very friendly. So I strongly recommend it.
Hi, my name is Roger Fry. I am a patient with multiple system atrophy, which is, as we patients call it, it is Parkinson's on speed. It was determined that maybe I should go to On With Life, which has a good program for Parkinson's. And I believe that I was one of the first patients there going through there with MSA. I went through OT, speech, and physical therapy. They worked with me on speech itself. I did not go through the LOUD program, which is part of the Parkinson's program. I went through with speech. They taught me how to, they wanted to know how, if it affected my speech, and my wife and I both said my voice had been was lowered during this time. And so they worked with me on that, trying to get me to improve my voice by doing some singing exercises. Everything did improve from those standpoints. And then I started working with them on brain activity, and because I was having trouble with trying to express what I wanted to say, because I would say a word and it was the wrong word to say at the end of the sentence. So they worked with me on that, and from their standpoint, they had gone as far as they felt they could. So then occupational therapy, I worked with them on reach of my arms, how far I could reach. And they measured that from the beginning. So I do go back every month to see occupational therapist Sue, and we go through about a 45-minute session. I did a session of swimming, which helped drastically from my standpoint for the muscles in the body, trying to get them loosened up and getting moving again. So I worked with that on every other session over there. I ended up going back to Taekwondo, where I had been for 13 years. I joined back in Taekwondo, which is one of the, from my standpoint, it's one of the best things you can do. The staff at On With Life were very helpful throughout this whole process. I would do 3 months at a time, so I had done 4 sessions, 3 months at a time, and all of the folks at On With Life were very caring. They cared about the patient. They worked with the patient. They were very concerned about the safety of the patients when they're walking and posture. Brian in the PT was very good. I mean, we could laugh and joke about things. And from my standpoint, I think you have to do that because of what the disease is. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't pay to just ponder on what the disease will do for you, but what can I do day by day? And so we would laugh and joke when we were doing this. And the rest of the staff in PT were very good too. I mean, one of them even found out that I had trouble with my muscles, which is another issue with MSA. It's called coat hanger pain. So you have pain all the way up to your neck, and then it wraps around. So, and that's where the coat hanger pain comes from. So they worked with me on that and they're using some stretching tape, I believe it's called, physical therapy tape, to try to keep those muscles in place and not move too much. I cannot say enough about the folks at On With Life, the speech therapist. I went through several of them. Each one I encountered was very nice and very outgoing, concerned about my welfare, and concerned about how they could help me to get better. So I have a lot of kudos for them. They're very well educated, and the folks there are very nice, very patient oriented. They have what I would call a good bedside manner. And if I called because I couldn't make it, they were willing to work with me and their staff to try to fit me in at another time so that they could do that. So On With Life, as far as I'm concerned, is very, they are very attentive to the person. They care about the person. They're safety oriented for the patient's safety. I believe that the program in and of itself is very well organized. And like I said, the people are very helpful.